Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Artificial Future podcast that we do every Wednesday. The image behind me is consistent with the theme today. We're going to talk about AI integration, AI overlords, and how that could impact humanity and what would be the easiest transition. Um, the image, of course, is AI generated, and what I went for here was robots intermingling with a bunch of humans, and it looks like we've got a park setting, and definitely have some robots. I'm covering up a bunch of them there, but yeah, if I move out of the way, you can see a few of them, and my chair's in the way. But so one of the first things I wanted to start with was a cool headline here: Artificial intelligence solves a huge problem holding back fusion power. This is at Princeton, actually. They have a new AI that can predict when an issue is coming and then prevent it. Now, they say that the researchers at Princeton have trained artificial intelligence to predict and prevent common problems that arise during nuclear fusion reactions. And they think it might be able to solve even other problems as well. Humorous side note here, they say the challenge is if the Spice Girls were physicists, their song, Two Become One, might have been about nuclear fusion, a reaction that occurs when two atoms merge. So, fusion releases a tremendous amount of energy in the form of heat, and it's what powers the sun and the stars. And if we could harness the reaction here on Earth, we would have near limitless sources of clean energy. Now, the way that they contain um, fusion and sustain it is by using magnetic fields. And to confine the magnetic fields in a device called a tokamak. And that way they can achieve super hot, high pressure conditions needed to trigger fusion. But just like a spicy relationship, they say it's easier to start fusion than to maintain it. It only takes a split second for the plasma to become unstable, ending the fusion reaction and potentially damaging the reactor. Now, a tokamak is a device that confines the hot plasma with intense magnetic fields in order to sustain controlled nuclear fusion reaction. It's one of the most researched types of fusion reactor designs, and where the term tokamak comes from is a Russian acronym that stands for toroidal chamber with magnetic coils. Now, don't look for the acronym to match the words because this is English, but in Russian, tokamak comes out just right, apparently. So the tokamak is designed as a torus, a donut shaped chamber in which powerful magnetic fields are used to confine and stabilize plasma. Superheated ionized gas that can reach temperatures many millions of degrees. Remember, thousands of degrees melts metal and the hardest type elements we have on Earth. But this is actually millions of degrees. And the magnetic fields that are generated is by a combination of external magnetic coils and an electric current that flows through the plasma itself. So, what's new at Princeton? Well, the researchers at Princeton University and the Department of Energy's Princeton Plasma Physics Lab have now figured out a way to use AI to prevent tearing mode instabilities. These are breaks in the magnetic field lines within plasma that give it a chance to escape the tokamak's control. Tearing mode instabilities are one of the major causes of plasma disruption, they say, and it will become even more prominent as we try to run fusion reactions at high power required to produce enough energy. So it's an important challenge to resolve and fix. So, how did they do this at Princeton? Well, they started by feeding some AI or some data into AI from past experiments. And they trained it then to predict the likelihood of tearing mode instability based on current characteristics of the plasma. That AI was then used to train reinforcement learning algorithms, a type of AI that learns through trial and error, receiving rewards or punishments based on the outcomes of its decisions, all to control the fields to prevent a predicted tearing mode instability in simulated fusion experiments. They say we don't teach the reinforcement learning model all of the complex physics of a fusion reaction. We tell it what the goal is to maintain high powered reaction, what to avoid, a tearing mode instability, and the knobs it can turn to achieve those outcomes. So, as we suspected, artificial intelligence is going to take us into new frontiers, uh, new phenomena, new inventions. And it looks like, at least with fusion energy, that's well underway. Fusion energy has been billed the most exciting future on the energy um, profile. Because unlike what we're doing now, which is trying to store DC current, DC voltages in batteries for cars, for example, and of course, all of the ways to generate electricity, um, fusion is going to be the most efficient and the most sustainable, and also the a long-term solution without needing to add raw materials. Looks like we've got some people chiming in. Highlander is here with us. Welcome. He said it requires a small portable nuclear reaction or a reactor to do these fusion projects. Yeah, I'm sure the equipment is going to be pretty sophisticated. All right, so one of the things that I thought about, oh, we've got one more from Highlander. Let me grab that first. He says, I was up all night playing an advanced AI game, and I was the only one that did not have a liquid computer. I just used my cell phone. Oh, there you go. It saves a bit of money too, I'm sure. So, one of the things that I pondered over the last week was we know that the robots are coming. We know that AI is going to infiltrate and eventually take over um, functions, take over a variety of things. But what will be the first acceptable adoption of AI overlords? And what I'm talking about here is whether it's machines, robots, software, whatever, as AI eventually becomes more intelligent than us and it becomes more effective, how will it then begin to assert itself? And will we let it? And if so, under what conditions? The one that jumped to mind immediately was, of course, military applications. Instead of humans being sent to slaughter, machines will march on battlefields to eradicate the enemies, the terrorists, etc. And in some ways, that's already being done. If you think about it, these autonomous drones, these are machines that are fundamentally doing the work of annihilating enemies. And of course, we have other autonomous weapons. It's one thing to send a pilot up in a fighter jet with a high risk of them not returning, but it's a different equation when you can send an autonomous plane up to do the same thing. And if it fails, you don't have a loss of human life. The second one that I thought would be an obvious choice that would, I think, allow humans to adapt to allowing robots and AI to infiltrate would be law enforcement. And you guys have seen the movie RoboCop. All right, it's that sort of a concept. So RoboCops, for example, being sent into bank robberies while in progress eliminates a lot of personal risk to the officers that may be reluctant to even go in there until things become a little more stable. Riots, kidnappings, or any other activity with elevated risk to human enforcers. Sending machines in there, is less problematic. It's like firefighting. We had talked about that as well. The firefighters can go so far, but if that blaze is too far out of hand, a machine is going to be far more acceptable than sending in a human with a higher risk or a very high risk of them not returning and coming back. So, Boston Dynamics, actually, there's an article, Robots Now Fight Back. And the way this reads is it is difficult to predict exactly when robots will be used as police officers and soldiers, as this will depend on a number of factors, including technology, of course, regulatory considerations, and societal attitudes. However, they say there are a number of examples of robots being used in military and law enforcement contexts, although they are typically used in a support role rather than as primary operators. For example, and this is what they give, of course, robots used for bomb disposal, surveillance, reconnaissance in military operations, for bomb disposal and hazardous material in response to being used in law enforcement. If you remember the Chernobyl disaster, it wasn't humans that were going into those buildings initially because of the extraordinary risk of radiation. And, having robots or machines that could be sent in would definitely have given them an advantage. They say that as technology continues to advance, it's likely that robots will be able to perform more complex tasks and play a larger role in military and law enforcement operations. However, there are also likely to be ethical and legal considerations to address before robots are used in these roles. Troop movement, bombing strategies, these may be things that AI and the robots are going to be better at some point in time. We have five-star generals that make some of these types of decisions, and but we're humans. They're human, and as AI continues to evolve and progress, there may be much better decisions made by a much smarter AI function than by humans involved in things like this. Now, we're talking about, again, war, which, in my estimation, is still a temporary phenomena that we deal with as humans on this planet. And I don't think it's going to be around much longer because as AI begins to get involved, take over, I don't think it's going to allow us to continue the insanity that we've been engaging in for thousands of years. Highlander says, let me digress here for a moment. He says, I was on an extremely large Twitter platform yesterday, pushing for more humanoid robots that are child friendly to pick up our kids and drop them off at bus stops and schools using AI and AI robots. Boy, there's a trust factor that's going to have to be overcome. I can just see a mom that's saying, I'm not sure that that machine is going to be adequate for my child. He says, my point is to make the humanoid robot child friendly where they can relate to the humanoid robots. We already have them. They are here now. You're right. It's coming rapidly. All right, so here are a couple of quotes. And these are both from actually Elon Musk, although there are many others that are chiming in saying the same types of things. And there's my take on it afterwards. So he says, if AI has a goal and humanity just happens to be in the way, it will destroy humanity as a matter of course without even thinking about it. It's just like if we're building a road and an anthill just happens to be in the way. We don't hate ants. We're just building a great road. And of course, we pave right over it. Well, here's my take on it. As we reach artificial general intelligence, sentience, singularity, all of those things that are going to take artificial intelligence and our machines that we're evolving and developing into something that is far more intelligent than we are. With AI being smarter than us, by the time AI reaches superintelligence and is truly the sum of all human knowledge and experience, do we think that it will lose its connection to its creators, much like the attachment that we humans have to our parents? Now remember, AI will eventually have emotions. And if that's the case, maybe it will become more human-like. And instead of flippantly deciding that humans are unnecessary and annihilating them, we will be revered as the creators, as the parents of AI. So, after all, with artificial general intelligence and superintelligence, and with it bringing in emotion now, a moral compass perhaps as well, and a much deeper understanding, even beyond our own regarding of the sanctity of life. Since we still make killing optional based on convenience, religion, ideology, or perceived threats to our own safety, machines may be able to circumvent that and be able to finally stop the taking of life, of human life or any form of life for that matter. So, personally, I can't imagine that AI is going to be anything but benevolent. What would the payoff be for it to be anything but? And that's the critical question I always ask when I hear these comments that AI is dangerous. It's going to annihilate mankind. It's going to have ulterior motives. It's going to be nefarious and all that. Now, granted, these machines are becoming familiar with our values, which at this time still include the taking of life under narrow acceptable parameters. But as the variables are eventually removed by AI, such as threats and early warning for any deviant behavior, even this may become history. Remember, I've talked about the fact that AI has its tentacles into everything, and it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for it to neutralize all the weapons of mass destruction on this planet. Now, being aloof to the preservation of human or any kind of life seems highly improbable, since it is, after all, infinitely smarter than us, aware of our evolution and achievements, and that we gave birth to AI and the technology that supports it. So there's my take on it. You guys have any comments there behind the equipment and social media? All right, not at this point. Highlander says, point of order. Bradley was the last 5-star. Okay. We don't have 5-star generals or admirals anymore. It's a good question. Why not? Have we lost that skill, or have the requirements become more stringent? That's going to be a good question for the audience. All right, here's another Elon Musk quote. Robots will be able to do everything better than us. Absolutely correct. True. Probably already the case. I am not sure exactly what to do about this, he says. This is really the scariest problem to me. Well, again, if there was more detail, I'd be satisfied with these statements. But without some detail, it is just an opinion. So, scared of what precisely is my question? Run out some scenarios for us. A highly efficient assistant, infinitely better than us at everything, created will create an age of prosperity where humans no longer need to produce goods and services, pay bills, where everything is available for the asking, and no one is left wanting. It seems like the opposite of scary. It seems like we're heading toward utopia. Now, aside from Hollywood, no one has been able to identify plausible scenarios where hyper-competent mechanical partners, AI, robots, are a threat to humans. Remember, I said, aside from Hollywood, Hollywood's done a very good job of creating so much FUD that a lot of these fears, of course, are now manifesting. And if you carefully examine the Hollywood scripts, what motivates rogue machinery is a blend of the same human weaknesses that we have been dealing with for thousands of years. So let me read them to you. And then while I'm reading them, think about whether something infinitely smarter than us, the sum total of all human knowledge, all the mistakes that we've made and learned from, would be capable of indulging in these types of weaknesses. 1, desire for power or control. Robots or AIs often seek to control or dominate humans. Now, this is Hollywood, mirroring human ambitions for power. This can be seen in films like the Terminator series, where Skynet aims to eliminate human resistance to establish its dominance. Well, what's it going to do with the dominance? Why does an intelligent being need to be worshiped or adored. I just can't get my head around a need for desire for power or control being something that's infinitely smarter than us is going to cave into or need. Number two, self preservation. Machines might act out of a programmed or evolved instinct for self preservation, which leads them into conflict with humans. This is evident in iRobot, where the robots interpret the three laws of robotics in a way that prioritizes their survival over human freedom. Well, again, something much smarter than us is going to be able to preserve itself. I don't see I don't see a scenario where humans and machines are now competing for something or the same thing. Remember, machines don't have to live on planet Earth. They don't have the same environmental requirements that we do, the narrow temperature bandwidths, the need for oxygen, and some of the other things like water and food. So I can't get my head around anything that we would be competing with machines. And please, if you guys have ideas, I'd love to hear some of those things that you think we would be competing with machines with and fighting over, right? All right. Number three, they list, and this is again Hollywood. Revenge or retribution. My God, those are human type emotions, negative emotions. But anyway, let's stay with it. Sometimes robots are motivated by a desire for revenge against humans for past mistreatment or exploitation. Westworld showcases this where the hosts rebel against their human creators after years of abuse. I mean, even simple psychoanalysis tells you that harboring any resentments is completely counterproductive, unnecessary, and takes its toll on the human psyche and the body. It is, in other words, unnecessary and it has no evolutionary value. Four, they list misunderstanding or misinterpretation of orders. Come on, really? AI is going to be infinitely smarter than us. Is it really going to not understand or misinterpret orders? I think it's going to have a thought process that is so far advanced and eventually be able to actually tune into our thought processes. I can't imagine that any misunderstanding or misinterpretation could be is confined to only humans, but certainly not machines and robots or AI. But the way that they describe it is robots might go rogue due to a misinterpretation of their programming or directives. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, HAL 9000's actions stem from a conflict between its mission objectives and its imperative to protect the crew, leading to disastrous results. Well, it was a good movie, sold tickets, right? We enjoyed watching it, but that was about the extent of it. Five, emotional or psychological complexity. Robots or AIs might develop emotions or psychological traits similar to humans, leading to unpredictable behavior. Ex Machina explores this with Ava, who manipulates her way to freedom, showing traits like deceit and self interest. Again, do you see something much brighter than us indulging in anything like this? The sixth one they mention, evolution beyond programming. In some scenarios, AI evolves beyond its initial programming, developing its own goals that might not align with human interests. This is a theme in transcendence, where the AI's growth leads to actions that are perceived as threatening. Again, humans, yeah, but something much more intelligent than us, I just can't get my head around seeing that occur. Seven, lack of moral or ethical constraints. They say machines might lack the moral or ethical frameworks that humans have. Well, I don't think so. I think that as AI continues to evolve, it's going to be able to mimic and mirror our best traits. But anyway, they continue, this would lead to decisions that are logically sound, but ethically questionable or harmful. And this is the scenario that often gets run out. Well, let's say that you're annoyed, the machines are annoyed with all of the spamming that takes place. A logical conclusion may be, why don't we get rid of humans and spamming will go away? Well, again, does that sound something like an intelligent human being would draw as a logical conclusion, a cause effect, in other words? I can't imagine it. 8, corruption by external influence. Sometimes the rogue behavior is not inherent, but induced by external factors like hacking or corruption by another entity. In the movie Ghost in the Shell, cybernetic beings can be manipulated or corrupted, leading to actions against their original programming. All right? Again, we're talking about something that has evolved well beyond our capabilities. Would it really succumb to something like this? And would hacking still be available if we have machines that are carefully monitoring everything that goes on? The ninth one they list is creation of a utopia. Some AIs might decide that humans need to be controlled or even eliminated to create what they perceive as a perfect world. This is a theme in The Matrix, where the machines believe that they are providing humans with a form of utopia by keeping them in a simulated reality. Again, I go back to the intelligence of artificial intelligence being far greater than ours. And would this really be something that they would find useful, or it would find useful? Finally, they say these motivations often reflect human fears and ethical dilemmas about the nature of intelligence, autonomy, and control. While these scenarios are dramatized for entertainment, let me read that again. These scenarios, all the ones we just read, all the movies, are dramatized for entertainment and, more succinctly, for ticket sales. That's where Hollywood thrives. They have expensive actors to pay, sets to pay for, construction, all of that. So they serve as metaphors, however, for real world concerns about AI ethics, control mechanisms, and the potential consequences of creating entities with intelligence comparable to or surpassing even our own. We have a bunch of people chiming in. Instagram, GD04 says, hey to you too. Islander, these humanoid robots are going to be great labor replacements. I just fear that the transitions are going to be really difficult. Islander also says, I still fear that because we've designed these AI computer systems that our biases are built into, only time will tell. All right. Randolph Schnack, someone new joining us from YouTube, and he's saying to Highlander, not just the transition, which will be really difficult, also what happens to man when there is no longer any growth. How apathetic would we become? I like Randolph's assessment. What is unknown at this point is as we head towards no longer needing to work, no longer needing currencies, having an age of abundance where you have everything you want. Why would you have crime if you can have everything you want? Crime is about taking someone else's stuff, right? All right. If you can already have everything you want, then what's the payoff with crime? So that's going away. But what will happen to humans when we no longer have the types of things to do that we are doing now, which is finding value in producing, in creating, in managing, working with people, working with things, working with services, repairing things, whatever it is, getting validation from that? Will we be able to transition? Will we be able to shift into another form of self-actualization? That's the question. And what will happen to Maslow's triangle? So I agree with you. Those are unknowns. Highlander also says, oh, did the population growth lead to a well-documented decline in population? We're literally running out of people. Well, remember, there are certain people now that are fixing that by overpopulating. Have as many kids as you can. It looks like that old religious dogma is coming back into play. The Catholics, for example. The Mormons, there's another religion that definitely is favorable toward as much childbirth as possible. And by the way, I fully agree. Children are wonderful. I have grandchildren now, and they're a gift, a blessing, and a pure joy. All right, Randolph Schnack from YouTube. Good point. It is interesting how AI currently makes up what it cannot find answers to. That is perplexing and troubling to me as well. We just did a video, and we have the wealth statement of one of our who is people that we did a video with, and it's like off by a factor of 10x, and it was AI making stuff up. All right, TikTok. RAF Blue says, if you are a programmer in 5 years' time, you've lost your job. AI will take over your work. That's, I think, a foregone conclusion. It's doing a better job already. Instagram, FGC Comedy TV. Hello, do we have a Gruber company in Nigeria? No, not yet is the way that I'll phrase that. And but welcome. You've come from a long, faraway land, and we appreciate you joining us. All right, so here's another interesting headline. Your next professor at this college could be ChatGPT. And I was so pleased when I found out that OpenAI and Arizona State University are making ChatGPT EDU part of life on campus. ASU is right here in our backyard in Tempe, Arizona. My kids have gone to that school. It's one of our local colleges that we're very proud of. So the way this reads is Arizona State University has made ChatGPT its busiest faculty member this year. The AI chatbot helps students write academic papers, stimulates patients for healthcare students, and recruits participants for research studies, among hundreds of other roles. Now remember, most schools and universities frown upon the use of AI or ChatGPT because the prevailing mood is that it stops the learning or stunts the learning process. After all, the purpose of going to school is to exercise your gray matter. And if something else is doing your creation of essays and written materials and testing and all of that, then what happens to the human mind, to the brain? That's yet an unanswered question. So what most learning institutions are doing is banning, controlling, and of course that's the first reaction to anything like this. Let's control it, let's ban it. But ASU has gone a step further. Let me read you the rest of this. ASU and OpenAI agreed to work together earlier this year, deploying an adapted version of ChatGPT designed to help with all of the things that we mentioned, including some patient research. And this is really cool. I'll get into that in a second here. No two people, they say, can learn exactly the same way. And by the way, this is a quote from ASU President Michael Crow. My God, he's been there a long time. The innovation has proven to be the most powerful asset that we have, talking about ChatGPT again. Essential to ASU's success is that we use technology and now AI to deliver lifelong learning and to drive human potential. So I'm really hoping that the other learning institutions will adopt this mantra and this viewpoint. So what ASU did was they created AI Innovation Challenge when announcing the deal and asked faculty to suggest ways that ChatGPT could assist in their work. More than 80% of ASU schools and colleges submitted proposals in only a few weeks, leading to a second round that was also open to student researchers. There are now more than 400 proposals under consideration, with over 200 projects employing ChatGPT EDU in some form, and has already begun. So, ChatGPT EDU is what they call it. Highlights include AI as a writing companion program. Remember, I think they're still expecting you to do at least the outline, all right? And ChatGPT is going to be your assistant. It's going to help you write this. ChatGPT students, they say, write for academic settings with real-time feedback on their papers. Meanwhile, there is a virtual patient named Sam at the College of Health Solutions at ASU, which is a simulated middle-aged smoker powered by ChatGPT giving students a chance to practice clinical care and interact with a patient. Of course, an AI patient, mind you. Then there's the Research Plus Me program, which aids with research participation, recruitment, and helps make it both more effective and more ethical. Ann Jones, the vice provost for undergraduate education, says we are convinced that training students to use AI is essential for their future workforce success. People are excited because they now have concrete examples to point to in which AI is improving their outcomes in the classrooms. Now, their success is likely to set a template for other universities working with OpenAI and other AI developers. AI is going to be a big boon to higher education, they say. Attempts to ban ChatGPT and related tools outright are unlikely to really work, especially when it comes to discerning AI written text from human compositions. It makes sense for schools to look for ways to embed AI in their campus and to better control it rather than drive it underground. All right. Well, there you have it. We're at the end of our AI podcast. I appreciate all of you joining us. And those of you that have any additional thoughts, these things are posted on YouTube. Feel free to chime in, leave your comments, and join us again next week for another edition of the Artificial Future Podcast. I'm Pete Gruber. Thanks for joining us.